You assume you'll never be recognized, leaving a homeless shelter. Then a familiar voice sliced through the winter morning. My grandfather shouted from his luxury car, demanding to know why I was there. The fear wasn't his anger, though that was coming, but the realization that he believed I was living in a townhouse he claimed to have given me over a year ago, a place for which I had never received a single key. My name is Ivy Simmons. I'm 24 years old. And until 10 minutes ago, I thought my biggest concern was hiding the fact that I'd spent the night sleeping on a cot that smelled of industrial bleach and other people's sweat. The air that morning wasn't just cold, it was aggressive. February wind doesn't merely brush your skin, it looks for ways to settle into your bones and stay there. I pushed open the heavy steel door of the Harbor Light Student Haven and stepped onto the cracked sidewalk. The door slammed shut behind me with a sharp metallic echo, a sound that felt like the end of a sentence, or the beginning of one. I pulled my scarf tighter. It was thin and gray, something I'd found in the lost and found bin at the diner where I worked, but it served its purpose. I adjusted the straps of my backpack, which held everything I owned: 2 advanced anatomy textbooks, a spare hospital uniform, a toothbrush, and a half-eaten granola bar I was saving for lunch. The weight was familiar now, a steady pressure that reminded me of my situation, even if I avoided saying the word homeless. I was transitional. That was the term Tara, my caseworker, used. A transitional youth experiencing housing instability. It sounded clinical, manageable, like something paperwork could fix. But the reality was the concrete building behind me, the peeling paint, and the signs swinging above the entrance that told the world exactly who you were if you walked out before 6 in the morning. I kept my head down. That was the rule. Keep moving. Blend in with the commuters who actually had beds waiting for them at night. Walk fast enough, and no one studies your shoes to see how worn the soles are. Look busy, and no one questions why you're leaving a shelter. I managed 3 steps before stopping cold. A car was parked at the curb. Not just any car. A black SUV, gleaming like a fortress. Its polished surface reflected the gray sky and the dull brick of the shelter, transforming them into something expensive. The engine hummed with quiet power, vibrating through the soles of my cheap boots. It looked completely out of place, like a jewel dropped in a gutter. A man stood beside the rear passenger door. He was tall, wearing a long wool coat that likely cost more than my tuition for the semester. His posture was rigid, hands clasped behind his back, breath visible in the freezing air. My heart slammed against my ribs. I knew that stance. I knew the sharp line of his jaw and the steel-gray eyes that had terrified me since childhood. It was my grandfather, Walter Pierce. For a moment, I wondered if I was imagining it. Sleep deprivation can do that. I'd been surviving on 3 or 4 hours a night for months. Maybe my mind had finally broken and summoned the most intimidating figure I knew to pass judgment. Then he turned his head. His eyes locked onto mine and the illusion vanished. This was real. He was here. And he was looking from me to the peeling sign that read Harbor Light Student Haven and back again. His expression wasn't anger, not yet. It was deep, unsettling disbelief. Like a man discovering a stranger destroying his living room furniture. I wanted to run, to wrench open that steel door and disappear back into the smell of bleach and despair. Anywhere but here. Anywhere but under his gaze. Ivy, he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried, cutting through the wind and distant traffic. I couldn't move. My hands clenched the straps of my backpack until my knuckles turned white. I wore a thrift store coat I'd bought 3 years earlier, its zipper broken near the hem. My boots were scuffed. I looked exactly like what I was, someone who'd slipped through the cracks. And Walter Pierce, a man who built a logistics empire on discipline and appearances, was seeing all of it. He stepped toward me. Then another step. He moved with purpose, the air around him seeming to tighten. Ivy, he shouted. The volume made me flinch. People across the street turned to look. A woman walking her dog slowed down. Heat rushed to my face. Shame isn't cold. It's a burning sensation that starts in your stomach and rises, choking you. I felt exposed, stripped bare. "Grandpa," I whispered. My voice came out rough. I cleared my throat and tried to stand straighter, reaching for the dignity he'd always demanded. "What are you doing here?" He ignored the question and stopped 3 feet away. Up close, he looked older than I remembered. The lines around his mouth were deeper, but the intensity hadn't faded. His eyes scanned my coat, my backpack, the dark circles beneath my eyes. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, pointing at the building behind me. "I saw you come out of that place. That is a shelter, Ivy. A place for the destitute." "I'm fine," I said quickly. The lie tasted bitter. "It's just complicated. I'm okay." "You're living in a shelter." It wasn't a question. "It's temporary," I said, forcing a professional tone, the one I used in nursing training. "Just until my clinical rotation schedule is sorted out. It's closer to the hospital. It's for convenience." "Convenience?" He repeated the word as if it were absurd. "You're sleeping in a shelter for convenience?" "I'm handling it," I said. "Please, Grandpa. People are watching." "Let them watch," he snapped. Walter Pierce didn't make scenes. He controlled rooms without raising his voice. Seeing him lose that control was worse than the shouting. His voice dropped, low and shaking. "I don't care who stares. I care why my granddaughter is walking out of a charity ward looking like she hasn't eaten properly in 6 months." "I eat," I said. Another lie. "I'm fine." He studied my face, searching for something familiar. Confusion crossed his expression, then hurt, then something harder. "Where is the house?" he asked. I blinked against the stinging wind. "What?" "The house," he said. "The townhouse." He gestured toward the north, toward the wealthy suburbs beyond the city. "In Briarcrest Heights." I stared at him, completely lost. Briarcrest Heights was an elite neighborhood. Heated driveways, perfectly trimmed lawns. The kind of place my sister Mia, spoken about in her moments of exaggerated pride. It was not somewhere I had ever been. "I don't understand," I said. "Don't play games with me," he snapped. "Not now. Not when you look like this." He took a breath, clearly trying to steady himself. "I bought it for you last year for your 23rd birthday. A 3-bedroom townhouse. Paid in full. The deed is in your name." The ground seemed to shift beneath me. A wave of dizziness hit, and it had nothing to do with hunger. "You did what?" "The townhouse," he said slowly, emphasizing each word as if I couldn't process them. "I sent the keys. I sent the deed. I sent all the paperwork to your mother to give to you. I was in Tokyo for the merger. I wanted you close to the medical center so you wouldn't have to commute." I stood there on the frozen sidewalk, my mind completely blank. My 23rd birthday. I remembered it clearly. I'd worked a double shift at the diner. I'd gone back to my parents' house, the one where I slept on a pull-out couch in the den because Mia needed the second bedroom for her yoga space. I remembered waiting for a call from Grandpa. It never came. I remembered checking the mail, hoping for a card, a check, anything to help with the tuition crushing me. There was nothing. Just a generic card my mother bought from the dollar store. "Happy birthday, daughter," printed on the front. She handed it to me with a tired sigh, saying money was tight, Grandpa was busy, and he probably forgot because he was getting old. She told me not to expect handouts, that at 23 I should be grateful just to have a roof over my head. "Grandpa," I said, my voice shaking, "I never got a house." He froze. The wind whipped his coat, but he stood completely still. "What did you say?" "I never got a house," I repeated quietly. "I never got keys. I never got a deed. Mom gave me a card. She said you were busy. She said you forgot." "Forgot," he repeated. The word landed flat and lifeless. I swallowed hard, fighting tears. "I thought you stopped caring. I thought I disappointed you by not going into business. I thought you cut me off." Walter Pierce stared at me in silence. The SUV engine idled behind him. I watched his expression change. Shock fading, confusion disappearing, replaced by something cold and precise. His eyes, usually sharp and calculating, hardened like stone. He looked at the shelter. He looked at my boots. He looked at the dark circles under my eyes. And then he seemed to measure the year between us. A year I spent scrubbing toilets at midnight to pay for books, skipping meals to save $5, shivering on a cot while a paid-off house sat somewhere with my name on it. "Lydia," he murmured, barely a sound. Then, with more venom, "Mark." The truth reached him faster than it reached me. I was still trying to understand that a house existed at all. He was already understanding the theft. "They told me you were living there," he said quietly. Every time I asked, Lydia said you loved it. She said you were busy with school and had hired a decorator. She said you were happy. "I've been homeless for 4 months," I said. The words escaped before I could stop them. They kicked me out. They said they needed the space for Mia. They said I needed to learn independence. His jaw clenched so tightly I could see the muscle jump. Color drained from his face, replaced by a rage that looked closer to grief. Independence, he said, spitting the word. He looked at me one last time, taking in my shaking frame. He didn't hug me. He never hugged. He didn't offer sympathy. He offered direction. Get in the car, he said. Grandpa, I have a hospital shift in 2 hours. I can't. He didn't raise his voice, but the command was final. The same tone that built companies and crushed competitors. You are not going to the hospital like this. You're getting in the car. We're getting breakfast, real food, and then you're telling me everything. Every detail. He opened the back door of the SUV and held it there, waiting. I hesitated and glanced back at the shelter. It was harsh but familiar. I knew the rules there. Then I looked at the open door, the tan leather interior, the heat spilling out. It looked like another world. I walked forward, my legs heavy, and climbed inside. Warmth wrapped around me instantly, sinking into my frozen jeans and numb hands. The smell of leather and faint cedar replaced bleach. The seat was so soft it nearly made me cry. My body, used to plastic chairs and thin mattresses, didn't recognize comfort anymore. I pulled my backpack onto my lap, holding it close. Grandpa got into the front seat and shut the door, sealing out the wind, the street, and the life I'd been living. Go, he said to the driver. The Pierre Hotel. As we pulled away, the shelter faded from view. The people outside blurred together. I leaned back against the heated seat, and a single tear slipped down my cheek. I wiped it away quickly. The warmth wasn't comforting. It was painful. It showed me exactly what had been taken. The missing townhouse wasn't just a building. It was warmth, safety, sleep without fear. It was the year of my life spent breaking myself for people who called themselves family. My grandfather stared ahead, silent. In the mirror, his eyes burned with cold focus. I knew that look. It meant something was about to be destroyed. And sitting there, clutching my worn backpack in the back of a 6-figure car, I realized I was ready to explain everything. Ready to show him how I ended up outside a shelter with my entire life on my back. To understand that, you have to rewind 5 months. You have to see the life I was living before everything collapsed. It wasn't a life. It was endurance. My alarm didn't beep. It screamed. 4:30 a.m., a time that doesn't feel like morning, only punishment. Every day began the same way. I rolled off the narrow pull-out couch in my parents' den, my back aching from the metal bar digging into my spine. I moved quietly to the kitchen and made the cheapest instant coffee available. It tasted burnt and bitter, but I drank it black. Milk cost money. Sugar was optional. I was a student at the Lakewood Institute of Health, a demanding program designed to eliminate weakness early. I was in my final year. I was close, but getting there required surviving a brutal schedule. My day started at Northbridge Medical Center. By 6 a.m., I was scrubbed in, standing while assignments were shouted. For 8 to 10 hours, I stayed on my feet, changing bedpans, lifting patients twice my size, drawing blood from fragile veins. I was invisible, just another pair of hands in blue scrubs. But I loved it. In the hospital, rules mattered. Follow protocol and patients lived. Calculate doses correctly and pain eased. It made sense, unlike my real life. At 3 p.m., I changed out of scrubs, washed off antiseptic, and put on a black polo and non-slip shoes. I drove my battered sedan across town to the Rusty Spoon Diner. From 4 to 9, I ran non-stop, serving burgers, apologizing for cold fries, smiling until my face hurt. Tips added up slowly, $60 or $70 on a good night. It went straight to gas, textbooks, and family expenses. At 10 p.m., I started my third job, the one no one knew about. Midnight Gleam Facilities. We cleaned office buildings downtown. I vacuumed endless hallways, emptied trash cans, wiped conference tables where men like my grandfather made deals. I finished around 2 a.m. I slept 3, maybe 4 hours. I studied pharmacology by phone light while motion sensors shut off overhead lights. My hands shook constantly from caffeine and hunger. I was always hungry, the deep, dizzy kind. The only reason I survived was Walter Pierce. He paid my tuition directly. He believed discipline deserved support. It was the only thing anchoring me to a future. So I endured. The hardest part was home. I lived with my parents to save money. Every month, I left $650 on the counter. They called it a family contribution. It was more than shared rent near campus, but guilt kept me there. My sister Mia, 26, lived upstairs in the guest room with her husband Derek. Neither worked. They paid nothing. One night, near 3 a.m., I came home exhausted. Derek sat eating expensive delivery pizza. He didn't offer me any. "You look terrible," he said. The fridge was empty. My yogurt was gone. He asked me to reset the router. I told him I had to be up in 2 hours. He smirked. "You're working too hard for nothing, Ivy." I walked away. The next morning, the payment was due. Lydia sat at the table, sipping tea from a china cup, studying a stack of invoices with a worried look. Around 10 that morning, Mia came downstairs wearing a silk robe I knew cost more than my car. She looked rested. She looked radiant. "Morning, Mommy," Mia said brightly, kissing our mother on the cheek. Derek and I were thinking of trying that new brunch place downtown, the one with the mimosa flight. "Do you have a little cash? Derek's transfer is stuck at the bank for a few days." Without hesitation, my mother opened her purse, pulled out two $20 bills, and handed them over. "Have fun, sweetheart," she said. "You two need to relax. Derek's been under so much stress planning his business." I sat there with my hand resting on the envelope holding $650, money I earned wiping tables and scrubbing toilets, money that meant I couldn't buy the new stethoscope I needed. "Mom," I said tightly, "I need to talk to you about the rent." Her expression hardened immediately. The soft indulgence she'd shown Mia disappeared. She turned to me with a tired, almost offended look. "It's not rent, Ivy. It's a contribution. We're a family." "It went up," I said. "It was $500 3 months ago. Now it's $650. I buy my own food. I'm never home using electricity. I sleep on a couch. Mia and Derek have the master suite and pay nothing." "Mia is going through a transition," my mother snapped. "Derek is building a future. You're single. You have no dependents. You have that generous support from your grandfather. You can afford to help. Don't be selfish." "It's not a scholarship," I said carefully. "He pays the school directly. I don't get that money. I'm working 3 jobs." "And that's good for you," she replied, waving me off. "It builds character. Your father and I are struggling. Everything costs more. Taxes, insurance. If you want to live here, you need to pull your weight." She looked at the envelope under my hand. She didn't ask for it. She expected it. Mia was texting, humming softly, already thinking about brunch. My mother was mentally spending my money. That was when something shifted. I understood I wasn't a daughter here. I wasn't family. I was a resource, a battery they drained to keep Mia comfortable and Derek supported, all while maintaining the image of a stable, upper-middle-class household. I slid the envelope across the table. Not because I agreed, but because I was trapped. I had 4 months left of school. Moving out meant deposits and rent I didn't have. They knew exactly how much they could take without breaking me. "Thank you, Ivy," my mother said, tucking the envelope into her purse, right next to the money she'd given Mia. "We're ordering Chinese tonight. Try to be home by 7. "I have a shift," I said, standing up. "I'll be home at 2. "Always working?" Mia sighed. "You're going to age so fast. You should try that cucumber mask I bought." "Oh, wait. I used the last of it." I left, gripping my steering wheel until my knuckles went white. I told myself it was temporary. Once I had my degree and my license, I'd go anywhere far away. I thought I was paying for safety. I didn't know that envelope wasn't going to bills. I didn't know they were erasing me. At the hospital, I checked my reflection. Pale, exhausted. I clipped on my badge, Ivy Simmons, student nurse. It felt like the only identity they hadn't taken. The decision about money didn't happen in a meeting. In our house, decisions were announced. One Tuesday, I was stirring marinara because my mother said her wrist hurt. Mia scrolled on her phone. Derek watched a documentary about billionaires. My father walked in. "Ivy," he said, "we've looked at the numbers. Costs are rising. We need to adjust your contribution. Starting next month, it's $650. "That's a 30% increase," I said. "I can barely manage 500. "Watch your tone," he replied. "We're surviving." "I can't afford it. I'm saving for my boards." Mia sighed dramatically. "Why do you make everything about money? It's tacky." I noticed a boutique shopping bag beside her. "Is that new?" She pulled it closer. "It's an investment. Appearances matter." "So you can buy designer clothes?" I said, "but I cover the heating bill?" My mother stepped in immediately on Mia's side. "Stop attacking your sister. She has a family. You're single. You have it easy." Easy, I whispered. That's your choice, my father said. You chose a hard path. They reframed everything. By the end, I was selfish, ungrateful. I agreed again. After that, they pushed harder. Derek later showed me a brochure for a $60,000 truck and asked me for $200 to cover application fees. No, I said. He accused me of hoarding cash. I locked myself in the hallway bathroom and breathed until my hands stopped shaking. 2 days later, I needed a required textbook. $180. My account had $42. I asked my mother for help. We don't have it, she said. Be more responsible. That night, I heard her on the phone sending Mia $300 for her hair. Something inside me broke, not loudly but completely. I documented everything. Screenshots, receipts, lies. Then one rainy night, I came home early and overheard my parents outside. She looks thin, my mother said. Maybe ease up. No, my father replied calmly. If she gets comfortable, she'll leave. This is about control. I stood in the dark, understanding everything. They weren't struggling, they were managing me. At 2 in the morning, I washed their dishes in cold water, my cracked hands aching. I didn't cry. Just get through this year, I told myself, then run. They wanted obedience. They had no idea what they were creating. On my 23rd birthday, my grandfather didn't call. He always called at exactly 8. That silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. I waited. Checked my phone. Full signal. Full volume. By 9, the absence felt deliberate. My mother sliced grapefruit. No cake. No acknowledgement. And I knew something was wrong. The silence lingered. Did Grandpa call the house line? I asked. My voice sounded small in the quiet kitchen. Lydia paused mid-slice, the knife suspended above the cutting board. She turned, drying her hands on a dish towel. Her face settled into that carefully neutral expression she had perfected over years of social maneuvering. Oh, Ivy, she said lightly, as if recalling me at the last second. Happy birthday. No, he didn't call. He sent an email to your father and me early this morning. He emailed you? I asked. Why wouldn't he call me? He always calls. He's traveling, she replied smoothly, turning back to the grapefruit. Some executive retreat. A digital detox, I think. Switzerland. Or the Andes. I forget. He said the signal is terrible and he couldn't reach out personally, but he sent his best wishes. I stared at her back. The explanation was reasonable enough to sound true, yet something about it felt off. Too convenient, too slippery. Walter Pierce mocked digital detoxes. He called them excuses for weak leadership. He carried a satellite phone precisely so he was never unreachable. He has a satellite phone, I said. Maybe it's broken, Lydia replied, slicing through the rind with a dull, wet sound. Or maybe he just wanted quiet. Ivy, he's getting older. You can't expect him to cater to you all the time. It's a bit selfish to think he should climb a mountain just to wish you happy birthday. There it was again. The turn. The subtle accusation. I swallowed my response. Did he say anything else? I asked. About school? Just best wishes, she said, cutting me off. She opened a drawer, took out a card, and slid it across the counter without meeting my eyes. From us. I picked it up. A generic card with a flower on the front. Inside, in my mother's looping handwriting, Happy 23rd. Love, Mom and Dad. That was all. No gift, no check, just paper. I went to work with an unsettled feeling like something important had shifted. It wasn't just that he hadn't called, it felt like a connection had been severed. I checked my email repeatedly during my diner shift. Nothing. I checked voicemail. Empty. That night, the house felt strange. At 11, it was usually dark and quiet. Instead, the living room lights were on. Mia sat on the floor, surrounded by brochures, floor plans, fabric samples. She looked energized, focused, like someone planning a campaign. She tried to cover a stack of papers when she saw me, but I caught the glossy branding of high-end real estate. What's all this? I asked, dropping my backpack. Just ideas, Mia said quickly, forcing a smile. Derek and I are visualizing, manifesting. I stepped closer. One brochure had slipped free. The gold lettering was upside down, but readable. Rehearsed Heights. My chest tightened. It was the most exclusive new development in the city. Gated homes starting at $500,000. You're manifesting a place in Rehearsed Heights? I asked. Mia, the HOA fees alone are more than I make in a month. Don't be negative, she snapped, clutching the papers. Derek has things in motion. We're exploring options. There's nothing wrong with dreaming. I'm not content living like this, I said quietly. I'm realistic. Reality is boring, she replied, walking past me. And we're closer than you think. She hummed as she went upstairs. Mia only hummed when she felt victorious. What unsettled me wasn't the dreaming. It was the details. Red circles on floor plans, specific layouts. That wasn't visualization. That was planning. 2 days later, my unease deepened. I came home early, rare for me, after a clinical rotation ended unexpectedly. The house was quiet. In the dining room, my father sat at the head of the table, laptop open, surrounded by blue-covered documents. He typed quickly, glasses perched low on his nose. "Dad?" I said. He slammed the laptop shut so hard it sounded like a gunshot. He spun around, face flushed, eyes sharp with panic and irritation. "Jesus, Ivy," he snapped, pressing both hands onto the closed computer. "You scared me. Why are you sneaking around?" "I'm not," I said. "I live here. You're supposed to be at the hospital. My shift ended early." I glanced at the documents. He followed my eyes and swept them into a pile, flipping them face down. "What are those?" I asked. "Work," he said quickly. "Consulting. Confidential." He hadn't had a consulting client in 4 years. I thought business was dead. "It's picking up," he said sharply. "I need privacy. Go to your room." I left, my heart pounding. My father didn't handle finances, my mother did. So, what was this? In the den, I pulled out my phone. I needed to hear Grandpa's voice. I called his personal number. One ring, then a click. "The subscriber you're trying to reach is not accepting calls at this time." Not voicemail, a block. I tried again, same result. I called his office, Mrs. Higgins' line. "This number is no longer in service." A chill ran through me. That number hadn't changed in decades. This wasn't an error. It was a barrier. In the kitchen, I noticed a stack of unsorted mail. Among bills and catalogs was an envelope from the Lakewood Institute of Health, addressed to me. It felt light. The seal was wrinkled, damp once, opened and resealed. I slid it open easily. Inside was a routine notice, but someone had read it. They were intercepting my mail, blocking my calls, hiding documents. Why? Then it clicked. Tuition. Grandpa paid it directly. If I couldn't reach him, I couldn't confirm anything. I looked at the calendar. 4 months to graduation. If I confronted them now, they'd throw me out. I had $40. No backup. They held the roof over my head. I resealed the envelope and put it back exactly where it was. 2 weeks later, I came home from a double shift to chaos. Boxes everywhere, labeled in Mia's handwriting, champagne open, pizza on the table. "We're moving," Mia announced. Lydia smiled brightly. "Mia and Derek bought a house. They invited us to live with them." I scanned the labels. Mom and Dad. Mia. Derek. No Ivy. "Where are my boxes?" I asked. Silence. "This is your opportunity," my father said, "to launch." "I have 4 months left," I said. "Just 4. "There's no room," Lydia replied quickly. "The third bedroom is a nursery." "Manifesting," Mia added. I begged. Offered more money. Anything. "This is tough love," my father said. "You need to feel hunger to build character." "When do I leave?" I asked. "Wednesday," he said. "Ideally sooner." I packed that night. 2 trash bags, 1 backpack, $42 in my account. No replies to my texts. At 4 in the morning, I left. My car wouldn't start. My chest tightened. It was the most exclusive new development in the city. Gated homes starting at $500,000. "You're manifesting a place in rehearsed Heights?" I asked. "Mia, the HOA fees alone are more than I make in a month." "Don't be negative," she snapped, clutching the papers. "Derek has things in motion. We're exploring options. There's nothing wrong with dreaming." "I'm not content living like this," I said quietly. "I'm realistic." "Reality is boring," she replied, walking past me. "And we're closer than you think." She hummed as she went upstairs. Mia only hummed when she felt victorious. What unsettled me wasn't the dreaming. It was the details. Red circles on floor plans, specific layouts. That wasn't visualization. That was planning. 2 days later, my unease deepened. I came home early, rare for me, after a clinical rotation ended unexpectedly. The house was quiet. In the dining room, my father sat at the head of the table, laptop open, surrounded by blue-covered documents. He typed quickly, glasses perched low on his nose. "Dad?" I said. He slammed the laptop shut so hard it sounded like a gunshot. He spun around, face flushed, eyes sharp with panic and irritation. "Jesus, Ivy," he snapped, pressing both hands onto the closed computer. "You scared me. Why are you sneaking around?" "I'm not," I said. "I live here. You're supposed to be at the hospital." My shift ended early. I glanced at the documents. He followed my eyes and swept them into a pile, flipping them face down. What are those? I asked. Work, he said quickly. Consulting. Confidential. He hadn't had a consulting client in 4 years. I thought business was dead. It's picking up, he said sharply. I need privacy. Go to your room. I left, my heart pounding. My father didn't handle finances, my mother did. So what was this? In the den, I pulled out my phone. I needed to hear Grandpa's voice. I called his personal number. One ring. Then a click. The subscriber you are trying to reach is not accepting calls at this time. Not voicemail. A block. I tried again. Same result. I called his office, Mrs. Higgins' line. This number is no longer in service. A chill ran through me. That number hadn't changed in decades. This wasn't an error. It was a barrier. In the kitchen, I noticed a stack of unsorted mail. Among bills and catalogs was an envelope from the Lakewood Institute of Health, addressed to me. It felt light. The seal was wrinkled, damp once, opened and resealed. I slid it open easily. Inside was a routine notice, but someone had read it. They were intercepting my mail, blocking my calls, hiding documents. Why? Then it clicked. Tuition. Grandpa paid it directly. If I couldn't reach him, I couldn't confirm anything. I looked at the calendar. 4 months to graduation. If I confronted them now, they'd throw me out. I had $40. No backup. They held the roof over my head. I resealed the envelope and put it back exactly where it was. 2 weeks later, I came home from a double shift to chaos. Boxes everywhere, labeled in Mia's handwriting, champagne open, pizza on the table. We're moving, Mia announced. Lydia smiled brightly. Mia and Derek bought a house. They invited us to live with them. I scanned the labels. Mom and Dad. Mia. Derek. No Ivy. Where are my boxes? I asked. Silence. This is your opportunity, my father said, to launch. I have 4 months left, I said. Just 4. There's no room, Lydia replied quickly. The third bedroom is a nursery. Manifesting, Mia added. I begged, offered more money, anything. This is tough love, my father said. You need to feel hunger to build character. When do I leave? I asked. Wednesday, he said. Ideally sooner. I packed that night. 2 trash bags, 1 backpack. The $42 in my account. No replies to my texts. At 4 in the morning, I left. My car wouldn't start. So I walked. 3 miles to the bus station, plastic handles cutting into my hands, knowing one thing clearly. They weren't pushing me to independence. They were erasing me. My hands went numb as I sat on a metal bench under a flickering fluorescent light, waiting for the first bus into the city. When it arrived, I went straight to the University Student Center. It opened at 6. I walked in soaked, carrying everything I owned in garbage bags. The woman at the front desk looked alarmed. I need help, I said plainly. I had no energy left to soften it. I'm homeless. I need somewhere to sleep. She typed quickly, made a call, then handed me a slip of paper. It's called Harbor Light Student Haven, she said gently. A transitional shelter. They reserve beds for students. It's not a hotel, but it's safe and free. Harbor Light was a gray concrete building on the edge of the industrial district. It looked like a repurposed government office. I stood in line for intake for 2 hours. I showed my student ID, signed waivers for random drug tests, and a strict curfew. We have a bed in the women's dorm, the intake coordinator said. She looked exhausted but kind. Bed 42. You get a locker. Out by 7 a.m., back at 6 p.m. How long can I stay? I asked. Officially 30 days, she replied. Extensions depend on progress, school, work. It's temporary, I said, repeating it to myself. Just a few weeks. She nodded without conviction. The dorm was a large gym-like space filled with rows of metal beds. It smelled of bleach, damp clothing, and bodies. Women of all ages were there, some talking quietly, others asleep, some withdrawn. Bed 42 was in the middle. Thin mattress, plastic cover, gray wool blanket. I sat down, hugged my backpack, and closed my eyes. The worst part wasn't being kicked out. It was knowing no one knew where I was. I was bed 42 in a shelter, and nobody was looking for me. I checked my phone before it died. No calls, no messages. Just a few weeks, I whispered, knowing it wasn't true. The rules at Harbor Light were strict and posted clearly. Curfew at 10, lights out at 11, wake up at 6, bags searched daily, chores assigned. Most residents hated it. I didn't. The rules were fixed, predictable. At home, expectations shifted constantly. Here, effort equaled stability. I kept quiet. I stayed invisible. I never mentioned nursing or hospitals. I cleaned thoroughly and followed every rule. 3 weeks in, I was organizing receipts in the common area. A counselor named Tara noticed. She was observant, direct. You're not just surviving, she said. You're managing. Write everything down. I did. Dates, amounts, decisions, rent increases, money denied, money given to Mia, the move, no address. On paper, it became clear. The math didn't lie. That night, sick with a fever, I checked social media. Mia had posted a photo. My family stood in a grand living room. High ceilings, massive windows, champagne glasses. Mia held up a key. New beginnings, the caption read. Briarcrest Heights. I recognized the view from the brochures. They were living there. I couldn't reconcile it. The numbers didn't add up. The timing didn't work. It was impossible, unless the house wasn't new. 2 days later, still weak, I left my clinical shift and headed for the bus stop. Near the hospital entrance, I saw a black Lincoln Town car. A driver was loading a wheelchair. I knew him. Arthur, I called. He smiled warmly. Miss Ivy. He said Grandpa was proud of me. Said he talked about me often. He's traveling, I said. That's what my mom told me. Arthur frowned. Traveling? He's been recovering from hip surgery at the estate. My stomach dropped. Then he asked, casually, how's the townhouse in rehearsed? I froze. He explained. Grandpa had bought it last February. Signed the papers. Said it was for me. The truth hit all at once. The house was mine. My parents hadn't just removed me. They had taken what was meant for me. They stole it. I left quickly, barely holding myself together. On the bus, I thought clearly for the first time. Grandpa paid my tuition directly. That meant the university had a secure contact with him. I went to the library, used a guest computer, created a new email, wrote to financial aid and the dean. Short, professional, direct. I am not living in Brearest. I never received the keys. I am currently in a shelter. I went back to Harbor Light late, sat on bed 42, looked at the photo again. My grief was gone. What replaced it was resolve. They thought I was powerless. They were wrong. Later, I sat beside Grandpa in his car. He listened without interruption. Dates, numbers, words. When I finished, he spoke quietly. He confirmed everything. The house, the trust, the keys sent to my mother. They blocked my calls, he said. They lied to both of us. As the car stopped at the hotel entrance, he took my arm firmly. You are Ivy Simmons, he said. My granddaughter. You belong wherever you decide to stand. And for the first time since it began, I knew I wasn't alone. I remember sitting in that lobby, then standing up. We walked. He didn't book a standard room. He reserved a suite. Before we even reached the elevator, he ordered room service. When we entered the suite, he gestured toward the bathroom. Shower, he said. Use the robe. Throw those clothes away. I'll have something brought up for you to wear. I stood under hot water for 45 minutes. I scrubbed my skin until it stung. I washed the shelter smell out of my hair and watched gray water spiral down the drain, as if the last 3 months were disappearing with it. When I came out, wrapped in a thick white robe, a food cart was waiting. Eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, and coffee that smelled unreal. Grandpa sat by the window, facing the skyline. His phone rested on the table. Eat, he said. I did. I ate quickly, without manners, focused only on the food. Butter and hollandaise burned my eyes. Walter watched silently. When I finished the last piece of toast, he nodded toward the phone. I'm going to call her, he said. My stomach tightened. Mom? Yes. What are you going to say? Will you tell her you know? No, he replied. The art of war, Ivy. You don't reveal yourself until you control the ground. He tapped the screen and put the call on speaker. The ringing filled the quiet room. Hello? My mother's voice was bright and cheerful, the tone she used when she wanted something. Lydia, Walter said warmly, performing convincingly. It's Dad. Dad, she exclaimed. It's so good to hear from you. We were just talking about you. How was the retreat? Refreshing, he said, lying easily. I'm back early and wanted to check in. I haven't spoken to Ivy in months. I feel awful about missing her birthday. I sat frozen, gripping the robe. Oh, you know Ivy, Lydia said softly. She's a workhorse, buried in her studies. We hardly see her either. Is she enjoying the townhouse? Walter asked. I held my breath. Oh, she loves it, Lydia said without hesitation. It's her little castle, very minimalist. She says it's the best gift she's ever received. That's good to hear, Walter replied. I was thinking of stopping by, maybe taking her to dinner. There was a pause. Oh, I wouldn't do that, Lydia said quickly. She's in a very intense rotation. Infection control. She's afraid of exposing anyone. She's basically quarantined until she passes her boards. I see, Walter said. So she's there now? Yes, Lydia said, locked in with her books. And you and Mark? He asked. How are you? We're fine, she replied, just plugging along, proud of Ivy's independence. Exactly what you wanted for her. Yes, Walter said evenly. Independence. Well, I should go, Lydia added. Mia needs help with a project. I'll tell Ivy you called. Do that, Walter said. Give her my love. I will. Bye, Dad. The call ended. Walter stared at the phone, then at me. You heard that? He asked quietly. She lied, I said. She didn't even hesitate. She erased you, he said. She invented a quarantine to keep me away. She placed you in a house she's living in. She took your voice and wore it. He crossed the room and rested his hand on my head. It was the first time he'd touched me since childhood. I wanted to yell, I admitted. I wanted to grab the phone. Screaming is for children, Walter said calmly. It warns the prey. We won't scream. He turned back to the window. The sun was setting, stretching shadows across the buildings. Tonight you sleep, he said. Tomorrow we work. I've already called my attorney. He'll be here at 9. We'll pull the county filings and see exactly what's on that deed. Do we kick them out? I asked. Walter turned, a hard smile forming. No, that's too easy. If we do that, they play victims. Instead, we let them host a party. A party? I said. I know your mother, he continued. She'll want a housewarming. She'll invite everyone. She mentioned a big reveal, I said. He replied. Let them plan it, spend their money, invite everyone, and then we attend. I saw the grandfather I remembered, the man who taught me chess and strategy. You won't beg for your house, he said. You'll walk in and let the truth collapse around them. We're trapping them, I whispered. No, he corrected. We're evicting them. Publicly, legally, permanently. Order dessert, he added. You'll need strength. By morning, the suite had turned into a command center. Files, laptops, and legal pads covered a long table. Walter sat at the head, now in a charcoal suit. Across from him was Elias Sterling, his attorney, sharp-eyed and precise. I sat between them, holding a mug of tea. Let's begin with the title, Sterling said, sliding a document toward me. This is the original deed transfer from the trust to you, filed February 14th. Valid. I stared at the name, Ivy Simmons. This, he continued, placing another document on top, is a quitclaim deed filed 3 months later. It transferred ownership to Vance Simmons Lifestyle LLC. That's Mia and Derek, I said flatly. Sterling nodded. Registered agents, Derek Vance and Mia Simmons. Check the signature, Walter said. It looked like mine, but it wasn't. The pressure was wrong. Too careful. I didn't sign this, I said. We know, Sterling replied. A handwriting analyst confirmed it's a forgery. But how was it notarized? I asked. Sterling showed another file. A notary with a history of loose practices, likely paid, or shown your old ID. It gets worse, Walter said. Sterling presented mortgage documents. They took out a $300,000 home equity line. They used it for shopping, I said, remembering the packages. Exactly, Sterling confirmed. No business expenses, just lifestyle spending. My chest tightened. There's more, Sterling added. They filed a petition claiming they couldn't locate you, said you were unstable. They redirected your legal mail. They committed perjury, Walter said. That's why you never saw anything. I stood and went to the window. They planned this, I said. This was an impulse. Yes, Walter replied. It was theft. Sterling checked his screen. 20 minutes ago, a coming soon listing was drafted. They're selling it? I asked. Trying to, he said. We stopped it in time. What do we do? I asked. We file an injunction, Walter said. It's done, Sterling confirmed. The property is frozen. Now, Walter said, turning to me, we need proof of abuse. Witnesses. Tara, I said, from the shelter. Call her, he said. She agreed immediately. By evening, the table was full of evidence. Sterling stacked it neatly. We have everything, he said. And for the first time, I believed him. Enough to bury them, Sterling said. We could have the sheriff there by midnight. No, Walter replied. He stood, walked to the minibar, and poured himself a glass of water. Not tonight. Why not? I asked. They're trying to sell the house. They're preparing to run. Because of the invitation, Walter said. He pulled out his phone and opened an email, then turned the screen toward me. It was a forwarded digital invitation from one of his business associates, someone my parents didn't realize was loyal to him. The Simmons family invites you to a grand housewarming gala celebrating our new chapter in rehearsed Heights. Saturday, 7 p.m. Cocktails, hors d'oeuvres, and major announcements. This Saturday. This Saturday. They're trying to cement their status, Walter replied. They want the neighbors to see them. They want validation. He looked at me, his eyes hard and unyielding. They want to stand in that living room and toast their success, funded in your name. We are not sending the sheriff in the middle of the night, he continued. We will let them have their moment. Let them dress well. Let them fill that house with witnesses. And then? I asked. And then we walk in, Walter said. The injunction is filed, but notice will wait. I want them comfortable. I want them confident. He set his glass down firmly. The night they host that party will be the night they sign their own ruin. They want an audience. Fine, we'll give them one. I stared at the invitation. Saturday. 3 days away. 3 days to prepare. 3 days to turn fear into resolve. I'll be ready, I said. Walter nodded. I know. Now rest. Tomorrow we shop. If we're attending a gala, you'll look like the owner. The plan moved forward Thursday morning, 48 hours before the event. We were back in the suite at the Pierre. Sunlight filtered through sheer curtains, but the mood inside was controlled and deliberate. Walter sat by the phone, calm and focused, like a man closing a deal. He adjusted his cufflink, took a sip of water, and dialed, placing the call on speaker. Lydia, he said when she answered, his voice full of practiced warmth. It's Dad. My mother sounded breathless, likely busy with preparations. Dad, I didn't expect to hear from you again so soon. Is everything all right? Better than all right, Walter said. Zurich wrapped early. I'll be back by Saturday. There was a pause, then excitement. I could almost hear her calculating the social benefit. That's wonderful, she said. You must come to the house. We're having a small housewarming Saturday night. A gathering? Walter asked mildly. I thought Ivy was quarantining. Oh, she is! Lydia replied quickly. She'll be upstairs studying, but Mark and I would love to show you the place. Mia and Derek, too. It'll be elegant, very understated. Understated, Walter repeated, glancing at the gala invitation on his laptop. Sounds lovely. I wouldn't want to disturb Ivy. Oh, you won't, Lydia assured him. She won't even notice. All right, Walter said. 7 o'clock. Perfect, Lydia replied. This makes everything complete. I've missed you too, Walter said evenly, then ended the call. The warmth vanished from his face. She took the bait. She thinks she's won, I said quietly. She has not, Walter replied. Sterling, who had been taking notes, looked up. The team is ready. 2 process servers will attend in formal wear. A sheriff's deputy will be nearby unmarked. Good, Walter said. This stays precise. The next 2 days passed quickly. It felt less like preparing for a party and more like planning an operation. Walter took me shopping. At a boutique without price tags, a seamstress fitted a black dress. Simple, structured, expensive. Not a dress for someone surviving. A dress for someone who owned the space. I barely recognized myself in the mirror. My hair was styled cleanly. The dark circles were concealed. What remained made me look sharp, deliberate. You look formidable, Walter said. It feels like a costume, I admitted. It's armor, he corrected. Tonight, you're not a daughter or a sister. You're the plaintiff. Saturday afternoon, 3 hours before the party, I stood alone in the suite bathroom. I looked at myself steadily. For months, invisibility had meant safety. Now, I needed presence. My name is Ivy Simmons, I said quietly. It's my house. I steadied my hands, letting controlled anger replace fear. When I returned, Walter was waiting in a tuxedo. Are you ready? Yes. He handed me his tablet. Mia's social media stories were playing. White roses, champagne, caterers, the view. Derek appeared next, bragging about new biometric locks. He thinks he's secure, I said. He's afraid, Walter replied. People who belong don't brag about locks. Walter stepped closer. Tonight will be loud. People will stare. Your mother will cry. Your father will posture. When I raise my voice, remember, I'm not shouting at you. I understand. I'm shouting at theft, he said. Can you stand there and not blink? I can. Good. Let's get your house. The drive to rehearsed Heights took 40 minutes. Tree-lined streets replaced city grime. Ornamental streetlights glowed warmly. Cars lined the road. They'd drawn a crowd. There it is, Arthur said. Number 42. Bright, full of life, completely stolen. Fear rose, then disappeared when I saw Derek standing in my doorway, greeting guests like an owner. Stop here, Walter said. Sterling was in position. The servers were inside. Walter looked at me. Tonight ends differently. He stepped out and offered his hand. I took it. We walked up the path together. Derek saw us and smiled, until he saw me. His expression broke. "What are you doing here?" he stammered. "We're here for the announcement," Walter said, walking past him. We crossed the threshold. I was inside my house. She let out a laugh that sounded sharp and brittle. "Everyone, look who finally decided to join us," she announced. "My father, Walter Pierce, and my daughter, Ivy has. We assumed Ivy was too busy studying upstairs to come down, but I suppose she couldn't resist the excitement." She pushed the lie further. Fear was driving her words. She was trying to shape the story on the spot, hoping that constant talking would distract from the reckoning standing in her entryway. Come in," she rambled, reaching for Walter's arm. "Let me get you a drink. Mark, get Dad a scotch. The good one." Walter didn't move. He didn't acknowledge the guests. His eyes went to Lydia, then to the white roses, then to the carefully built falsehood surrounding her. Then he released the voice I had feared my entire childhood, the voice that could dismantle boardrooms. "Stop acting." The shout was sudden and powerful, vibrating through my chest. The music cut off. Conversations ended instantly. A waiter dropped a tray of hors d'oeuvres, ceramic shattering loudly in the silence. Lydia recoiled as if struck, stumbling back with her hand at her throat. "Dad," she whispered, "what are you?" "This is not your house," Walter said forcefully. He gestured across the room, toward the molding, the furniture, the guests. "None of this belongs to you. You are not the owners. You are trespassers." Mark hurried over from the bar, wiping his hands on a napkin. He looked pale, sweating through his tuxedo. "Dad, please," he said urgently. "You're making a scene. People are watching. Let's go somewhere private and talk like family." "Family?" Walter replied with a short, cold laugh. "There is no family here, Mark. Only thieves." "You don't understand," Mark said quickly, glancing at the guests now whispering openly. "The paperwork is complicated. We handled things for Ivy to protect her." "To protect me?" I said, breaking the silence. My voice wasn't loud, but in the still room, it reached everyone. "You protected me by putting me in a homeless shelter." A collective gasp moved through the crowd. I saw a woman from the Homeowners Association cover her mouth. Mia, who had been posing on the staircase, stormed down, furious that her night was falling apart. "Oh my God! Stop this!" she yelled. "You're being ridiculous, Ivy. Nobody put you in a shelter. You chose to leave. You're 24. Stop pretending you're a victim just because you're jealous we made something of this place, and you didn't." Walter didn't look at her. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. He crossed to the antique table, holding a large vase of white roses, pushed it aside, and placed the envelope down firmly. "Elias," Walter said. Elias Sterling stepped forward from the entryway. Calm, composed, and precise, he opened the envelope and removed the documents. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sterling said evenly, "if you are currently enjoying the hospitality of the Simmons family, you should know you are standing on stolen property." He held up the first document. "This is the deed to 42 Briarcrest Lane, dated February 14th of last year. The sole legal owner is Miss Ivy Simmons." He raised a second document. "This is a quitclaim deed filed 3 months later, transferring ownership to Vance and Simmons Lifestyle LLC. Forensic analysis confirms Miss Simmons' signature on this document is forged." "That's a lie," Derek shouted from the doorway. "She signed it. She forgot. She's on medication." Sterling ignored him and lifted another page. "Additionally, the property was encumbered with a $300,000 home equity line of credit. Those funds, legally intended for property improvements, were traced to personal accounts belonging to Derek Vance and Mia Simmons, including purchases of luxury vehicles and retail goods." The room buzzed. Guests stepped back, distancing themselves. Mia's face turned red as she advanced toward me, pointing a finger. "You ungrateful little brat. We did this for you. You couldn't manage a house like this. We were protecting the asset." I looked at her earrings, bought with money pulled from my walls. "To keep something for someone," I said calmly, "you have to tell them it exists. I didn't know I owned this house until 3 days ago." "We were going to tell you," Lydia cried, pushing forward with tears. "We were going to surprise you when you graduated. We just needed somewhere to stay." "You were going to surprise me?" I asked. "Yes," she sobbed. "We love you." Walter raised his hand. "Stop." He took out his phone, connected it to the DJ booth microphone, and pressed play. My mother's voice filled the room, cheerful and clear, explaining that I was happily quarantined in my little castle studying upstairs. The recording ended. Lydia froze, the color draining from her face. At the exact moment you said that, Walter told the room, Ivy was sleeping on a cot in a shelter because you changed the locks and refused to give her the address. He turned to the guests. My granddaughter has been homeless for 4 months while these people lived in her house and spent her money. The judgment was immediate. Guests set down glasses and headed for the door. Derek panicked. This is a misunderstanding. We have residency. You can't remove us. Sterling stepped forward again. Because the residency was established through fraud, and the theft exceeds $100,000, this is now a criminal matter. 2 process servers moved forward, followed by a sheriff's deputy. You are being served an immediate order to vacate, the deputy said.